Okay, great. Thank you. So thank you very much for being here and for the coffee and donuts. And we'll talk about the impact of drinking caffeine at 4 p.m. a little bit later on how that will impact our sleep. But my name is Christine Spadola. I'm from the Phyllis and Harvey Sandler School of Social Work. I'm happy to see some social work colleagues and friends here today, so thank you for coming. I'm going to talk to you broadly about investigating and disseminating health promotion interventions for vulnerable populations. Now for the entertaining part. No, just a little bit about myself. I joined FAU in August of 2018, so I'm relatively new. Prior to that, I completed a postdoctoral research fellowship at Harvard Medical School in the Division of Sleep and Circadian Disorders. And prior to that, I was back in South Florida with my master's and PhD down the road at Florida International University. So I'm very happy to be back in South Florida. Boston winters are of recent memory, so I'm really pleased that after this talk, I'll be able to walk outside without putting a parka on, or without trying to walk like a penguin to be wary of black ice. So it's nice to be back in South Florida. The most important part of my presentation, I got an email from Karen saying an informal, entertaining talk. So I thought that was the green light for appropriateness to include a dog picture. I always like to include dog pictures and look at other people's pictures of dogs whenever possible. It just, I think, improves happiness and well-being. That has yet to be studied formally, though. So this is Penelope. She was 3 when I adopted her from the Miami-Dade shelter. She's now going to be 11 in perhaps June. She is an amazing dissertation support dog, postdoctoral support dog, and now assistant professor support dog. And she also does weddings. I got married 2 years ago, and she brought the rings. We called her and she came, so she's great. We're also very compatible because she sleeps. She likes to sleep. She sleeps a lot, and I study sleep. So we'll talk more about that later. I'm going to highlight not just my current research, but take you on a brief journey of where I've been and formative research experiences that shaped my current research mission. And then I'm going to discuss my current research and then potential collaborations that I'd love to have across FAU. So my first position right out of college was with drug-involved street-based sex workers. It was a project called Women Protecting Women. It was funded by the National Institutes of Drug Abuse. It was run by amazing researchers from University of Delaware. We were looking at 2 different harm reduction interventions for these women. I was hired first as a research interviewer, and then I stayed on for the 8 years as a project manager. But what I really took from this was just the stories of childhood abuse and trauma and foster care histories that these women endured, which later translated to histories with maladaptive outcomes, including substance use disorder, homelessness. But I also heard a lot about histories of resiliency and hope and support. But equally important, I was a research interviewer. I wasn't a trained psychotherapist then. And I remember sitting down with these women to do an interview with them, a research interview, not that fun. And I heard stories of, wow, that's the first time anyone has ever sat down with me. Wow, it felt good talking about that. And that motivated me to get my master's in mental health counseling and become a licensed mental health counselor. And my experiences as a licensed mental health counselor are very rewarding and also do shape my research. Something that sticks out predominantly was working with 2 organizations in the community that offered free bereavement support groups. Just seeing how having an organization that mitigated barriers to mental health care and support, and in this case it was the financial barrier to achieving that mental health care, that was really rewarding. So a large part of my research mission is how can we alleviate barriers to mental health and physical health care programs, physical and mental wellness, etc. So speaking of mental health care, for me personally, a source of support in addition to Penelope, of course, and I do have a wonderful husband, I should mention him too, because I'm talking about my dog, but is yoga. And I got introduced into yoga because they had free community-based programs in my community. So it was very exciting when, as a doctoral student at Florida International University, two of my mentors were awarded a foundation grant to investigate yoga for teens in outpatient mental health treatments. I remember being at a conference and I got a text from my mentor, Dr. Eric Wagner, one of my mentors, and he was like, do you want to run a yoga study? Do you want to get yoga certified as part of your job? So I was like, okay, that sounds great. So I did get my yoga teacher certification as part of my graduate assistantship. It was harder than I realized. I think I'm still sore, even though that was probably about 4 years ago. But we had promising findings in the reduction of depression and anxiety in these teenagers, and we're currently writing up the results. It was a quasi-experimental study with 189 teenagers. And even just being there with the teenagers and the support and camaraderie that they gave each other was really impactful. So again, how can we promote these programs that seem to have a promising impact? And throughout all of these past experiences, sleep was always a pervasive theme. As a licensed mental health counselor, you often heard about, when I don't sleep well, I'm more prone to relapse. To hearing teens in the yoga program talk about how they think they're sleeping better. So I was really always interested in sleep. We do know, especially now more and more, how important sleep is for physical and mental health and the severe consequences of inadequate sleep. And I like to look at sleep from a social justice standpoint and how we can promote sleep health as a way to perhaps alleviate health disparities. I do feel that certain behaviors to sleeping well could be easier than diet and perhaps exercising too. However, from a public health standpoint, we're not talking about it too much. More and more we are, but we're not really looking at sleep as a modifiable behavior that can promote health. But I think that is changing. So I was very excited to be accepted to my postdoctoral fellowship position at Harvard Medical School. There I got formal training on sleep, as well as implementation science and mixed methods research. And I got to lead an amazing study. It was the acronym, which I think is clever. I can take no credit for whatsoever. It's called Community Adapted Low Impact Yoga to promote improved sleep outcomes. We looked at a sleep hygiene and yoga intervention in 2 different affordable housing communities in the Boston area. And we used qualitative data to help inform the interventions. It was an iterative approach, so we used the qualitative data from the first round to improve it for the second. Here are 2 housing communities. We had very broad exclusion criteria. We're more of a pragmatic trial approach. So we even had a woman participate who used a walker. So just including everyone and introducing anyone to yoga if that appealed to them. Our intervention, it was formed by qualitative research from our target population as well as community partners, but we also used the Kombi theoretical model for behavior change to develop our intervention, which states that in order for behavior change to occur, we need capability, opportunity, and motivation to be addressed in the intervention. And there's a great book about it that details different components that can be a part of that. So it's the Kombi model for behavior change. It was a 6-week intervention. It was very simple. The first two sessions were a sleep hygiene education session. It was a 1-hour session. Essentially, we delivered sleep health education, talking about how alcohol and caffeine and nicotine might impact sleep, talking about the importance of maintaining a consistent sleep and wake schedule, the importance of getting morning light in the morning to tell our circadian rhythm that it's time to wake up, as well as avoiding or dimming the lights at night and telling our body it's time to go to sleep. We asked participants to develop individual sleep hygiene behavior goals. And then a week later, an individual coaching call, about 15 minutes. We just troubleshot with them. We said, how is it going? Great job. And if maybe they already accomplished their behavior, their goal, we added a different goal. And then they were given this infographic reminding them of certain healthy sleep behaviors. And then on the other side, they tracked their sleep. So after that, it was our yoga intervention. It was in person once a week, but really we were encouraging them to do a nightly home relaxing yoga relaxation routine, and we provided them a manual, later a YouTube video, all the supplies. It was trauma informed, meaning we assume trauma. So we're careful about language surrounding closing one's eyes. We offered minimal assists, and we also had, I believe they're called like flip chips, that participants could put next to them if they wanted to be assisted or not, so they could change them throughout the practice so that they had control. And it was beginner's level and options for modifications as well. I do have to say we were not powered. It was an R34, an intervention development mechanism. We were not supposed to find an impact, nor were we powered. It was a very small pilot study, but we're so excited when you do see significant findings. So we did find positive improvements in sleep impairment, sleep disturbance, healthy sleep behaviors, as well as sleep duration, all self-reported. And we're writing up those results now. Actually, we just got a revise and resubmit on those results now, so hopefully they're coming out somewhat soon. In continuation with sleep, and this is very relevant now because we have coffee out there, with my wonderful Boston collaborators, we also in August just finished a study looking at the impact of alcohol, caffeine, and nicotine consumed within 4 hours of bedtime and how that impacted your sleep. We objectively measured sleep using wrist-worn accelerometers called actigraphy, more sophisticated than Fitbits. So that's a thing in the sleep field. You can't just say just a Fitbit. But we did find, we had over 5,000 nights of data, and we did find that nicotine consumed within 4 hours of bedtime was associated with 43 minutes of lower sleep duration, which is a huge impact for the sleep field. So hopefully promoting when individuals are presenting for difficulties with insomnia, nicotine cessation should be one of the first targets there as well. And alcohol, supporting the other findings, we found alcohol led to more sleep fragmentation. It helps us fall asleep faster, usually, but in the second part of the night, it wakes us up as we metabolize the alcohol. There's a rebound effect. Our caffeine findings were interesting. The literature on caffeine in general is mixed, and we had null findings for caffeine, but that's not to say to go out and grab that Dunkin' Donuts coffee bin and go crazy. We didn't have dosing information. This was all secondary data analysis. And really the research supports that caffeine is really prone to individual phenotypes as well as tolerances. So really it's knowing what works for you and adhering to that as well. But it was exciting just because when I started doing this research, I realized we didn't know that much about what constitutes healthy sleep behaviors, and there's not too much research around it. So that was very interesting. And now I'm here at FAU. A wonderful colleague and a colleague in School of Social Work, we applied for a grant through the American Academy of Sleep Medicine last year, and we were very excited. It got funded. It's always a good feeling. I hope I have more feelings like that. And essentially the motivation for that, it really stemmed from my work in Boston with the sleep hygiene and yoga intervention. I just really remember recalling individuals not knowing the importance of sleep. A mother telling me, no, if I sleep, it's selfish. I should be cleaning the house. And just getting at, no, really, sleep is gonna make you a better mom, a better caregiver, a better employee. So just addressing the importance of sleep. Also just lack of information. We had some participants saying, why can't I drink a liter of Coca-Cola before I go to bed? So just information dissemination in this field, it just seems very nascent. So in order to promote that, especially among underserved populations, who better to empower and equip than social workers? So we developed an online sleep health module. We had collaborators from Harvard Medical School and fatigue countermeasure fatigue and fatigue countermeasures laboratory at NASA, who helped do our videos for us. Center for E-Learning was great. They hosted it on Canvas, and we are currently doing data collection on that. We're going to be testing it with 100 students. We're about 80 right now. And then next week, we're going to be doing focus groups on how we can further refine our online sleep health module and improve it, because this was a pilot study. So that's where I am now, and where do I hope to be going eventually. Things out in the universe that I'll just send positive vibes to. Dr. Cheryl Cruz-Perello in nursing, she does amazing work with veterans and companion animals. We just submitted a grant to look at sleep there and how sleep can impact veteran well-being. And I'm working with amazing researchers from criminal justice in my School of Social Work, as well as researchers from University of South Florida to look at improving sleep health among law enforcement officers, clients of the child welfare system, and overall underserved populations. So where would I like to go from here? Future collaborations that I would love to have across the university. First up, I would love our sleep health module, we'd like to refine it, and then broader dissemination of that, so I'm open to any ideas. In general, I would love to be involved in any project that leads to health promotion interventions among underserved populations, implementation science, of course, sleep and sleep health promotion. And I'm really interested in looking at sleep and substance use disorders. We do know that sleep deprivation is a risk factor for later onset of relapse, so perhaps looking at interventions, maybe conducted in substance use facilities, treatment facilities, and how that could happen. So that's where I would love to go in the future. So with that, thank you very much for listening and being here.